Can Nuclear Energy Solve the Climate Crisis? By William Mesquita. So what are we going to talk about today? Today we're going to talk about my project summary, how I got my project idea, some challenges I faced along the road, how I overcame those challenges, what I enjoyed about this project, my support, and what would I do next. So first, let's start with my project summary. Some of my project topics are how nuclear energy works, what is the climate crisis, the problem with fossil fuels, the promise of nuclear power, myths and realities about nuclear power, and future technology. So let's talk about how nuclear energy works. Nuclear energy is produced by uranium atoms being split. When these are split, they split into two things, lighter elements and energy. A fraction of the energy is used to power the neutrons. So this creates a giant chain reaction. But the problem is, what do we do about this chain reaction? Well, it is tamed using control rods. So now let's talk about the rest of the energy. The rest of the energy is used to heat up a coolant, which produces steam. The steam is used to spin a turbine generator, therefore creating electricity. So what is the climate crisis? The climate crisis refers to global warming, or is sometimes referred to as climate change. This is caused by greenhouse gases such as CO2 trapping heat in the atmosphere. So this change is melting the ice in the north, therefore causing rising sea levels. The problem with rising sea levels is this could result in flooding of major cities. The problem with fossil fuels. Fossil fuels and other energy production methods produce CO2. The problem is fossil fuels produce the most amount of CO2 out of any of the energy production methods. What are possible solutions to this problem? Remove CO2. Ways to do that are plant more trees, because trees take in carbon dioxide and exhale oxygen. Another way is carbon capture and sequestration. That is where you capture carbon out of the atmosphere and bury it deep underground. Another solution is to produce fewer emissions. Ways to do that are wind power, solar power, hydroelectric power, and nuclear power. So what is the best option for Canada out of these? The promise of nuclear power. It produces very little CO2. It is producing almost non-stop, so there's very little downtime, and it takes up very little space. It takes 360 times the amount of space to produce the amount of wind energy that it takes to produce the same amount as a nuclear power plant. So let's talk about some myths and realities of nuclear power. The first is that nuclear plants emit high levels of radiation. This is actually false. Nuclear power plants emit 0.005% of an average person's yearly intake of radiation. This is the same amount of radiation you get from eating a banana and is 100 times less than coal energy production and 200 times less than a cross-country flight. So another myth is plutonium is the most dangerous substance in the world. This myth is almost false. So plutonium is a man-made element which is created by uranium atoms absorbing neutrons. This creates plutonium. So it is said that plutonium is so dangerous that a speck can kill, but that is not true. Inhaling plutonium will likely cause higher chances of cancer later on in your life, but nothing else. So now let's talk about nuclear meltdowns. Whenever someone hears nuclear energy, they most likely will think of nuclear meltdowns. There are a couple nuclear meltdowns that are very famous, but only 3 of them after 70 years. And these are becoming less and less because of the new advances in nuclear technology. and the 3 nuclear meltdowns happened because of human error, and now they're training better employees. Also, out of the 3 meltdowns, only 31 people died in totality. So next, let's talk about future technology. Future technology will help us make nuclear power an even better solution for the world. So first, let's talk about small modular reactors. These would be mini nuclear reactors that would be placed in neighborhoods to supply them with power. These would work especially well in rural areas where they don't have a reliable source of power. The next future technology let's talk about is converting spent fuel into usable fuel. We would do this, when we do this, we could most likely solve the problem of storage, and then we would have much less need for uranium. So now let's talk about how I got my project idea. I got my project idea from an interest in power generation before this science fair and a family conversation where we were talking about nuclear power, and I came up with this idea. What are some challenges I faced along the road? The first challenge is not finding the information I was looking for on Google. The next is getting distracted. So how I overcame those challenges. I learned how to search more effectively through my dad so I could find everything I needed quicker and easier. I also reminded myself how great it would feel to create an amazing final product every time I was getting distracted. So what did I enjoy about this project? I enjoyed how it was my first science fair, how it was a topic I was interested in before this, and learning how to do a science fair project. So what were my supports? My dad, he helped me edit and just talked me through my project altogether. And an engineer that works at Ontario Power Generation, he supplied me with some of my facts. What would I do next? I would learn more about future technology. I would visit an Ontario Power Generation Information Centre once the pandemic is over, and I would learn more about nuclear waste so I can learn more about how to solve the problem. Thank you.